it gives you all the feels. Like I was just like, oh my gosh, look at them connecting little bit by little bit.
We'll get through this.
I know.
So Kayla, start us off. What did you think about this episode?
Well, this is probably my least favorite of, all the episodes thus far. It wasn't a bad episode. I just felt like it was a little bit fluffer. So you really they didn't give me too much. It kind of just was enough way to kind of keep you moving along in the story, which is like we needed in every show. But one thing that I did like is during the gunfight when they're in Kansas, you hear the other attackers are like, dude, you won't get out of this alive. You better hope I don't find you. In the game, you have all this commentary of the fighters coming. They're kind of prepping you for what's to come. And I think like in movies, you know whoever your opponent is, they're coming. Like they don't have to announce themselves. You just know that their presence is coming. And so this really reminded me of the game because you hear the audio in the back. You're like, ooh, it's about to go down. And I really like that.
Another little reference to the game that I noticed towards the end of the episode is Ellie mentions that she noticed that Joel isn't that good at hearing out of his right ear. And she's like, oh, is it from being shot? He's like, no, it's from shooting. So I suggest that you stick with that knife there if you don't want to end up like me. That was a little reference, I think, to the second game, because in the second video game, you get a knife and you're able to use that knife and kill as many enemies as you want. Whereas in the first game, you only had a shiv and it broke down as you kept playing. And in the second game, you're playing as Ellie. So Ellie's whole combat style becomes revolved around the knife. That's a little reference, or I think it is. Maybe I'm reading too deeply into it, but I'm pretty sure it's a reference.
It could be an Easter egg. A moment that I really loved is in the beginning, in the game, and the whole moment when she like finds the old school tape that he can listen to. In the game, I felt like that moment was just sealed so perfectly. Like it was just it gives you all the feels. Like I was just like, oh my gosh, look at them connecting little bit by little bit. And I felt like I was worried that in the show, were they going to give me that same feels? And so they did. And I love the fact that she's looking at it and she's like, I want to see what all the fuss is about. And I just think it was delivered well. So I just thought that it was really cute.
I think that the main purpose of this episode was to have them come together a little bit. At the end, they introduced Sam and Henry, and because of their bond, I think that they wanted to get Joel and Ellie a little bit further along before they met. I don't know what it is. To me, their bonding kind of felt a little forced in this episode. To me, it felt like it was rushed a little bit. Like at the beginning of this episode, we have just come from him being like, don't talk about Tess ever. And now, okay, she gets this book of puns and she keeps telling these corny...
Yeah, dad jokes.
Yeah, she keeps telling these corny jokes. And it's like... Then he starts laughing, and I guess it just felt like a lot of their bonding was on such small things when they already have so much trauma between them.
Yeah.
But then again, I am overlooking the fact that she did kill for him.
I felt like he grew to love her because he respected her. And for me, in that moment where she has to like save his life and the attacker is like almost killing him, instead of like killing him, she just, she frightens and she kind of stiffs up a little bit and she just hurts him and not kills him. In the game, Ellie kills him. She lays him out. And so in the show, I think that's a way of keeping her innocence. And I kind of like that because as a child, you wouldn't just automatically just also have great aim to really knock someone down like that. In the game, she's not new to this. She's done this before. And even in the show, she says, well, I've done this before. And I felt like, to your point, he didn't grow to like her. At first it was respect, and then he started to like her. And I felt like that moment where she could have killed him and didn't, all of that made sense, but it's also very different from the game. And I think that, to me, is what they're trying to like make their relationship form differently than it does for me.
I like how they're continuing to bring up the cost of taking a human life. They do that in the game. They push into it in the second game where, like, if you kill an enemy, you can hear their friend shout their name, like, Carl, no! I think they're pushing even further with like changing that scene where she has to kill the man who's killing Joel. In the game, you're right, like she just shoots him once in the head and that's that. Whereas in this, it's almost more traumatic because like she shoots him and paralyzes him, and then he starts talking about like, oh, my mom's around the corner, please just bring me to my mom.
And then meanwhile, Joel is like, why are you listening to this? Take him out. For like a split second, he looks at her like, you're not gonna finish the job? And then she's like, no, I don't want to. And then he takes him out. And I thought that was interesting because that none of that moment, it didn't happen in the game. Mm-hmm. She cleared him. And so, I mean, I guess that sounds kind of crazy, but yeah, she did. Maybe they are trying to like veer off from the massive killing that does happen or could happen, however you choose to play it in the game. So what else did you like about this episode or didn't like or wish you would have seen?
I like that they're humanizing the first group of like bandits or whatever that you would call it. They're not just there to be an obstacle to show you what it's like to fight humans in this video game. They actually like give you a story. They added a character with Kathleen.
I'm still like waiting to see how she unfolds, but that new choice and how she's gonna actually bring in Henry and his brother, I'm gonna wait and see how that really, you know.
I like that they're giving them more depth than they're just like pirates who are just taking people's stuff. They seem to have like some sort of desperation of their own that they're dealing with. That originally in the game, Henry and Sam just get caught up in the settlement and they have to escape. Whereas in this, they have a grudge with Kathleen, the leader of the settlement, and they're all like hunting them. It gives Henry and Sam more backstory and it just gives them more reason to be in it as opposed to we just happen to meet on the way out at the same time. There's this group of people, they're kind of ruthless. They're searching for these two guys. They're also searching for us because now Joel has killed one of their own. So they're kind of now, Henry and Sam and Joel are in the same boat because Kathleen is looking for all of them. I
love the fact that they give their opponents some type of storyline, but I do think that the savageness or the just ruthless of the killers that you see in the game, you know, they didn't have no backstory. They're just straight savages. The killers would kill to be killed. And so I think Kathleen, though, is that type of leader. So I think that everybody else is like subpar. Like they're just here. And we're going to see Kathleen be that, you know, just that really strict, ruthless leader that is a lot of the game. I feel like she's going to do it in her own way because I love that actress that plays her.
Well, yeah, overall, I think I agree with Kayla. This is definitely my least favorite episode. But it wasn't least favorite because it was bad.
Right.
It was just, it left me wanting too much more. It kind of went off and it was like, oh, that's it. Especially in a show where 2 of the first 3 episodes were an hour and a half. Okay, they get to the settlement. Joel and Ellie bond a bit. They discover Henry and Sam. We get a little tiny backstory with Kathleen's character, but that's it. Yeah. And when you actually think about all the important things that happen, it's really not, it's 4 things. 4 things happen in an hour. And so it just compared to like the first 3 episodes where I think the pacing in terms of new information and new things happening, it just felt a lot more like fast paced and moving. I think they slowed it down because they wanted to focus on Joel and Ellie's bond.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I got enough reason for them to bond other than her saving his life. But it was a bunch of stuff before that. Yeah, the bonding moments just didn't hit home for me the way that maybe I think that they wanted them to. But it wasn't like it was a bad episode in terms of the way that it was directed or writing. It wasn't like it was corny or anything. It was just for a show that's not afraid to have long episodes. I'm like, well, dang, you might as well just give us a little bit more and make that, you know, a longer episode. Because I was enjoying myself. I just ended before I felt like it should have.
It was a good meal, but I'm not full. I really did enjoy it. I do love the little moments that they have, like in the beginning, in the truck, between Ellie and Joel. They are really pushing their union. You know, they're really starting to come together to really get through the rest of it, you know, because they still got to go meet Tommy. So you start to see them bond and really try to like get through all these tough moments, like you said, from the previous episodes. But I do feel like, yeah, it could have been more. We could have gotten more into Henry and we could have seen what's to come a little, like, let's just 10 more minutes, you know, maybe 15. But yeah.
That's been our review, discussion, whatever, of The Last of Us episode 4. Obviously, you like zombie affected stuff. We have our own infected series called All That's Left. Yeah. We're working on a 2nd episode now, so go ahead and watch that. Drop a like, comment, subscribe, especially if you made it all the way through this video.
Yeah.
Yeah, but thank you. All right. Bye.